how do you cultivate relationships with realtors? Like, we don't have the secret sauce, right? How do you do it in a way that it's effective, right? We could all go into offices and drop off, business cards or rate sheets, or we could send you an email and invite you for coffee, but how can we really cultivate what's the right way to try to cultivate relationships with realtors? So I reached out to Emilio because I see him a lot at the East. I've seen him a couple of times at the East Greenwich branch, and I see that he's always into something. Always, I know that he does a radio show, and I see him on LinkedIn a lot, promoting and educating. And I thought that he would be a great resource for us to, to learn from him. So I know that he put this together, and I did make copies for everybody. Everybody has it. You have your own, right, TJ? So I know that you wanted to touch upon this and then talk a little bit about other things. So
I'm pretty young for a realtor. A lot of people have more experience than I have years on the planet, right? So we go by transactions as far as experience, because it doesn't do me any good to tell you I've been in the business for 5 years, right? Most of you have probably been selling loans longer than I've been selling real estate. But we do a ton of volume. And everything we do, and his biggest thing is about networking and building the brand of the Desperado team. So we've had some success this year between the 5 of us full-time. We've done over 100 transactions. When our pendings close this month, we'll be over 110. One of the things that he's all about is building our network and helping other people with their business, because it eventually comes back to you, right? So when we work with a buyer or a seller, not only do we have people in the banking and mortgage industry that we refer business to, we have florists, wedding planners, painters. I mean, anything that you could ever need, he's such a great resource to have. And that's why when I joined the team, that was the biggest thing I got from it, is my network grew. So hopefully I can, give you some pointers on how you can grow your network with real estate agents, because let's be honest, we have the same goals and we do the same thing. I always wanted to work on commission, even when I was like 10 years old, because I was never I never understood the idea of not being rewarded directly for how hard you want to work, right? So I want to work hard. So if I can do that, I'll make more money, as opposed to going to work next to some, I saw teachers, like, you work hard, you don't, you get paid the same. It didn't make sense. Things are a little different, at least in my understanding, from how it used to be when people buy a house. People used to go to the bank first and find, with all their papers, and find out what they could afford, and then then they would go to the realtor and start shopping for a house. Well, as we know now, people, it's an American concept. We shop first and we worry about how we're going to pay for it later, right? So a lot of the leads that we get are not pre-approved. I mean, they're on Zillow, they're on Realtor.com, and they're coming to us directly off our marketing and our advertising. They have no idea what they qualify for. So I think one of the things I can help you do today is get realtors to give you those people, because one of the things I don't like doing is sending a potential buyer into the abyss of places where they can get funding, and then you never know who you're going to deal with. That there are really 2 kinds of buyers. And I think the mistake that we all make sometimes is that we want to deal with, or especially, we don't think of sellers as buyers and we don't think of buyers as sellers. We kind of separate them, right? So if you look at number 4, that's where Emilio talks about thinking like a realtor. And it's cool and it's critical, but let me back up. I think I took 25 listings this year, okay? So that means that's 25 different co-brokes. 87% of all transactions have 2 realtors, right? So you're gonna represent the buyer, you have this buyer, you pre-qualified this buyer. Only 3 times out of my 20-something listings has the buyer's mortgage person contacted me. Only 3 times.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So you have a buyer, and this buyer is pre-qualified by you, right? And you're working with this buyer. I'm the listing agent over here.
Okay.
Only 3 times did that loan originator call me up. They never called the listing agent. I had a mortgage guy call me and say, I just wrote a pre-approval for this buyer, and here's why they're so qualified. I've already pulled their credit. I've checked their W-2s. He gave me more information about the buyer than the pre-approval letter ever would have had. And now his offer wasn't the highest and best offer, but that meant so much that the lender called. I'd love to do business with that guy. I really would. His name's Gary. I hope to do business with him in the future.
And a lot of people wait until the transaction closes to do that. And it's like, by then, they don't want anything to do with you. They're moving on to the next transaction.
If you think like a realtor, it'll help you get new buyers. And what I mean by that is this. If there's a listing in your neighborhood, if there's a listing in my neighborhood that's not mine, right? I'll call everybody else in the neighborhood and just let them know that there's a new listing in the neighborhood, just to chit-chat them up about real estate. From your perspective, what I would do is, if there's a listing in your neighborhood or where your family, not everybody lives where they work kind of, but where you're from, if there's a listing, call the agent. Tell him you're a loan officer, right? Just let him know that, ask him if he's gonna do an open house. Ask him if you can co-brand and co-market the open house, and go sit with him for 2 hours on a Sunday on an open house. You never know, you're gonna have buyers. For two reasons I'd like to have a loan officer there. One, is so there's someone else in the house besides me, because often, I mean, I'm doing a house with 3 levels, it's a cape. If I'm showing up the second floor, I can't even monitor the door, right? Two, all those buyers that come in, if we can build a partnership with that buyer, they're less likely to leave both of us. Because maybe I don't hit it off perfect with them, but you do. And you build that rapport, and they're not pre-qualified, because I would say 80% of the people that walk through the door are not pre-qualified, they're nosy. If you build that rapport and we come off as a team, then neither one of us are going to lose that person. Even if they don't close until next spring, we're still going to have them in our pipeline, both of us. So maybe if you forget to send them a magnet, maybe I sent them a magnet. Or maybe if you forget to send them a Thanksgiving card, I did. And by doing that, I think you'll have, A, a better relationship with realtors, because our mind will be blown if someone wants to join us on an open house. And 2, you'll have the same access to all the buyers that come through the door for that listing. When it comes to marketing an open house, or even marketing our listings, I know that it's easier as a loan officer to talk from get buyer perspective, because you don't really care about sellers. I mean, really, you need buyers, right? That's what feeds your business. But if you start to co-brand and market listings, A, you'll be more popular in the community of realtors, right? Because our name is going to be on everything. B, most of those sellers, I mean, who sells to go rent? I mean, it's very rare, right? So everybody who, if we get a listing, we're not only bringing in buyers, but we've just created essentially a new buyer that's often moving up in price. So one of the things we do on all our listings is we market with Jamie at Image 10, right? So Jamie's here. Thank you, Jamie. Offer to share the cost in exchange to get your watermark or your picture, or a picture of your business card, or even a 10-second introduction. So now we have a listing. It's 30 Jackson Avenue, right? So for a small fee, because we're going to share the cost again, you can get the first or the last 10 seconds of that video. So now when we're blasting it all over Facebook and all over Zillow and all over Realtor.com, you're associated with that listing, and it also gets you out there. Because effectively, you don't have a way to market yourself. No one's going to watch just a 30-second infomercial of just you on a blue screen saying, hi, I'm selling mortgages. But if we have a listing that they're already going to, and you can get yourself 10 seconds on that listing for $75, I don't know. I don't want to quote prices, James. I'm just throwing numbers. But if it costs $50 to get your name associated with a listing that's going to get 10,000 views in Rhode Island, you might as well do it. And you know a listing, right? Whether it's mine or anybody else's, you see a RE/MAX listing in East Greenwich in your neighborhood where your buyers are looking, call the agent. Say, look, I may have a buyer, I may not, but I'm happy to do the 2 hours with you. They'll be thrilled. Ask for business. I haven't had a loan officer in 5 years call me up and ask me for business at all. They'll give me their business card and they'll say the old, send me a buyer, I'll send you a buyer. You know how many times I've heard that? Especially when I first started and I was the one calling. I used to call loan officers. That was kind of like my thing. They don't send you a buyer, and I never sent them a buyer either. That's just not the way it works. But if you do this, if you send me in someone in your sphere that's selling, your cousin, your neighbor, your friend, then you co-brand the listing with me. Then you share in the marketing. And then we work the buyers that come in the door as a team. That's how you get referral business from realtors. The listing agents are the key, because we're opening the store. We're opening the store, and that's where the buyers are coming in. And so many times, the only contact that we have with a loan officer is a signature on the pre-approval letter, and then you don't talk, you don't talk, you don't talk. 40 days in, they ask you for the extension, which they could have asked you for 3 weeks ago. And then maybe you see them at the closing, maybe you don't, and then you get a thank you card. So that just makes you easily forgettable. We like to partner up with people that want to grow business exponentially. So if you're going to leverage our open houses and you're going to leverage our video services and all these things, and I think any agent that you associate yourself with, make sure they're an agent that does business. There's like 5,500 people that have a real estate license, right? So don't, you know, there's a lot of people. I'm doing a transaction with a guy right now who's been a realtor for 34 years, but he's also a fireman. Well, you're not a realtor, you're a fireman that has a real estate license, and there's a difference. So if you're going to spend time, energy, and money, right? You might as well find the top producer in your market. I mean, every market, you know the names. You see their signs everywhere. The storefront is the listing. The buyers will come. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.